I'm going to look at today is the real-time ambient documentation workflow. And so on the workflow pages, we describe how to string together a number of different requests in order to build a workflow for an application. And so that's where today, when we focus on real-time ambient, we're talking about using a web streaming interaction to stream audio, generating transcripts and facts real-time during the audio stream. And then using the facts that are generated, you're able to create clinical notes. And so this is inherent to the workflow of Corti Assistant, but also vendors and application developers are welcome to mimic this process and build out their own ambient documentation workflows. And it doesn't have to follow this exact pattern. It's more of an example of the art of the possible. And last thing I'll highlight is just from where is the raw API details. You can find that under API reference, real-time transcript and fact generation, WebSocket stream. So that's where, it's all summarized on this page.
So what you were showing before the workflow is an overview of the request sequence and whatnot, and this is in the API reference documentation, so more of the specific API calls.
Exactly, yes. Go back to the workflow. So here what you see is we'll create the interaction, and the server will respond with the interaction ID and that WebSocket URL, and then we're able to start the audio stream. We use a configuration to give parameters to the way the system should be detecting the audio. And then we can start sending audio packets, and we'll get the transcripts and facts in response. And then when we're done recording audio, we'll say stop, we'll review the facts, and then we can create the document. And so that sequence is what you saw in the application workflow, and we can show a little bit of a more raw version of that in this test harness. So first, I'll create an interaction. By default, we're showing John Doe, but I'm here with Maria. And maybe we'll change it from male to female. We could set birth date. All this context helps to configure that interaction. In response, I get the interaction ID and the WebSocket URL. So here we're visualizing that communication with the server. Now we can look at starting our audio stream. First, I'll specify the microphone, and the payloads is where you can configure, you can set the configuration that it's going to be English. I'm just going to ramble myself real quick to show this one. So we're not going to diarize, it's not multi-channel, and we want to see the facts in response. So we'll start the audio stream. Now as we're talking, we see that in the audio stream's open, we see the transcript being returned. Maria was a 30-year-old woman who came in complaining of abdominal discomfort. It started yesterday. She did not notice any new changes in diet. She was exposed to someone who is ill. We do not suspect appendectomy is necessary or any gallbladder issues, but we're going to consult with GI and also do an abdominal ultrasound to be sure. She's going to continue taking Tums in the meantime. All right, so I'll stop my stream. Transcripts being generated. The facts were returned real time, but the rest of them just wrapped up there at the end. They're generating every 60 seconds or so, whereas the transcript is live real time. And then if we wanted to generate our note, let's collapse this. We'll go down to the last part of the request of generate document. And in the payload, you'll see that all the facts that were generated are selected by default. If I change my selection, you'll see them being removed from the payload of what's going to be in the request for generating the note. So again, this would be in the control of the application developer to design a mechanism for how you want to create the JSON that goes in the API request for note. This is a fact-based workflow. The API documentation explains how you can use transcripts to generate notes. You can use just multiple strings of text. So there's a lot of flexibility in what you want to use as input. And then also what you'll define is your template key and output language. And so by default, I have H&P selected just like I did in the Corti Assistant. We'll click generate with all of our facts selected, and we should see that document returned. So there's the detailed response message. The JSON object that you get from the API response is broken out by section, so you can build out the document in whatever your display is. Or if you want to map the output into different sections of your EHR, of course you can do that. But we also just have a simple visualizer here. And of course, I just talked for like 10 seconds. So there's not a lot of rich detail in this example, but hopefully you get the point of how the API request is the same here in a little bit of a more visualized fashion, just like it is in the workflow product of Corti Assistant. And if I want to, I think we did a SOAP note, right? So if I do Corti SOAP as a different note type, this was a SOAP note. We can generate a second document. So same process as what you saw in, again, the Courtier Assistant app, but calling the API directly, I can send numerous requests to generate multiple notes, and it'll apply the different document type formatting. And if I wanted to do a patient summary, a referral letter, et cetera, I just use those different template keys to go generate multiple documents.